Ghana stranded students in Memphis, government scholarship scandal explained. The plight of stranded students in Memphis highlights a troubling issue. Ghana's educational aspirations are being overshadowed by mismanagement and broken promises. I must express my disappointment candidly. It is disheartening to witness a failure of prudence, diligence, and integrity in the handling of contracts and the management of well-intentioned initiatives. This situation is not merely about the execution of agreements, it reflects a deeper failure in the stewardship of the hopes and dreams of our youth. What started as a noble vision to empower students through educational opportunities is now descending into a state of silence, shame, and near catastrophe. This is not just an institutional breakdown, it represents a profound betrayal of trust, a disgraceful erasure of potential, and a stark reminder that when leadership is negligent, it is the young and vulnerable who pay the price. How is it possible that a mere secretariat, rather than the Ministry of Education, has accrued a debt exceeding $4 million to a single university in the United States? How could students be sent abroad to study while such debts were piling up? Many individuals I've spoken with have raised valid questions. Why were students issued documentation despite these outstanding debts? Why were they permitted to travel during a governmental transition? My candid response is that a change in government should never derail the aspirations of Ghanaian students eager to pursue their studies overseas. I shared this sentiment with a friend from Anthony, who now serves as a spokesperson for the presidency. I have long admired the president's communication style, having followed his journey since our days at the University of Ghana, where he presented his book * My First Coup d'etat * at the Department of English alongside Professor Enietho. I mentioned to my friend that one of the president's most impactful speeches, in my opinion, was delivered at the 71st United Nations General Assembly in 2015. In that address, he compellingly narrated the story of immigration, challenging the prevailing narrative of pity towards Africa. Instead, he emphasized the significance of collaboration and partnerships for sustainable development. Indeed, it is through these alliances that we are witnessing growth across the continent. The partnerships between the government and research institutions have yielded measurable impacts that are hard to quantify. It genuinely frustrates me to see some individuals downplay the importance of international exposure and experiences. It seems as though they fail to recognize the immense value of broadening one's horizons beyond national borders, learning from diverse cultures, systems, and perspectives. For me, international education and collaboration are not mere luxuries. They are essential in our increasingly interconnected world. The notion that studying abroad or engaging in global networks is somehow indulgent or irrelevant to national development is not only short-sighted but also perilous. Countries that flourish are those that embrace the global stage, forge partnerships, and empower their youth to return with knowledge and networks that can transform their communities. It was through exposure to global ideas, political philosophies, and anti-colonial movements that many of Africa's founding fathers found the intellectual fuel and strategic tools to challenge colonial domination and envision a liberated continent. Our first president, Kwame Nkrumah, studied in the United States, attending Lincoln University and later the University of Pennsylvania. His time there deeply influenced him, as he engaged with Pan-Africanist thinkers like W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey, as well as the civil rights movement. This international experience allowed him to grasp the intersections of race, power, and colonialism from a global perspective. He immersed himself in political theory, studied socialist models, and collaborated with fellow diasporans and African students to form unions advocating for our liberation. The aftermath of these experiences was significant. He moved to London, where he co-founded the Pan-African Federation and played a pivotal role in organizing the Fifth Pan-African Congress in 1945 alongside notable figures like George Padmore, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, and Hastings Banda of Malawi. These experiences were crucial in shaping a united front against colonial rule and fostering networks of solidarity across Africa and the diaspora. In May of this year, I had a brief encounter during a photo session with the newly appointed Registrar of the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat, who was preparing to present a scholarship bill to Parliament aimed at streamlining the government's expenditure on international education and scholarships. I viewed this as a commendable initiative, as it promised to address the scandals surrounding scholarships in Ghana. After all, no one is blameless in the realm of scholarships, not even government appointees or the affluent. However, when leadership falters in managing a partnership established by His Majesty Otumfuo Osei 222, we do not need a bill, we need effective leadership. Leadership should be proactive in communicating with the affected universities regarding next steps, payment plans, and the progress of the partnerships that have been established. As we often say in public administration, the machinery of government must continue to function seamlessly, regardless of changes in leadership or ruling party. I believe the Registrar is genuinely committed to resetting his secretariat and prioritizing the progress of the institution he leads. One day, not only will Ghanaians recognize his contributions, but his party members may also consider him for greater responsibilities on the political chessboard. As Winston Churchill wisely stated, the opposition occupies the benches in front of you, but the enemy sits behind you. I have heard many assert that the previous NPP government intentionally selected its own party members to study in Memphis through government-supported scholarships, suggesting that the new government should not be held accountable for any financial commitments related to those students. While this claim may serve a political narrative, it lacks both fairness and factual basis. The most sobering irony, which perhaps the Registrar noticed during his visit to the University of Memphis, is that if the NPP intended to sponsor its members for education, they failed miserably in planning for their academic journeys. There was no clear roadmap for sustaining their educational pursuits, no structured policy, and no lasting framework for continuity. The absence of a sustainable funding mechanism or a clear government commitment indicates that, regrettably, this was not a coordinated effort to build party capacity through international education. It was a missed opportunity. The critical next step is to actively engage with the universities involved, particularly the University of Memphis. Strengthening this collaboration is vital, as Ghana's international relations and reputation hang in the balance. It is essential to communicate with university administrators and develop a scholarship framework that clearly defines eligible programs, qualification criteria, and potential growth and assimilation pathways for recipients. Ghana owes $3.6 million in tuition fees. University of Memphis threatens to expel students by August 9. A ticking time bomb is threatening the academic futures of nearly 200 Ghanaian students at the University of Memphis, with a looming August 9 deadline that could eject them from campus unless a staggering $3.6 million debt is settled. Here's the crisis unfolding, and why it's sparking heated debates. Ghana's government is facing intense pressure to immediately address the unpaid tuition fees for 185 students sponsored under a national scholarship program. The University of Memphis has issued a stark ultimatum: pay up, find alternative funding, or vacate housing by the deadline. Dr. Bill Hardgrave, the university's president, emphasized the gravity of the situation. These students are fully sponsored by their government, which hasn't paid their tuition in months. We love having them here, but the debt is dire. The total shortfall of $3.6 million traces back to Ghana's December 2024 general election, which triggered a regime change and disrupted budget allocations. Hardgrave hinted at this political upheaval. Regime changes often mess with budgets. We're hopeful it gets fixed. But with only weeks left, the students, mostly pursuing critical fields like STEM and business, are staring at abandonment of their studies. The University of Memphis has urged the public to donate to its Gary Shaub International Student Support Fund, but the response remains uncertain. Critics argue the deadline is heartlessly rigid, while others blame Ghana's government for negligence. As one student lamented anonymously, "We're not just statistics, we're dreams on the line." But here's where it gets controversial: should universities prioritize compassion over financial policy, especially for sponsored students caught in geopolitical crossfires? Or is Ghana's government irresponsible for leaving its scholars stranded? The university insists it cannot subsidize the debt indefinitely, sparking questions about accountability. As the clock ticks, 185 young Ghanaians hang in limbo. Will a last-minute rescue materialize, or will this become a cautionary tale of political instability versus educational sacrifice? Share your thoughts. Should governments guarantee timely payments for overseas scholarships, even amid transitions? Ghanaian students at University of Memphis face eviction crisis. Imagine being halfway through your studies when a financial hurdle threatens to erase years of effort, and now picture that scenario playing out for 181 Ghanaian students at the University of Memphis. These students, who once dreamed of completing their degrees and returning home as professionals, now face a grim reality: possible eviction from their university dorms by August 9, 2025, and the loss of their academic progress due to unpaid tuition fees. But here's where it gets controversial: what happens when a government support system falls short for its brightest minds overseas? Let's break this down. The University of Memphis has issued a strict deadline for these students to settle their outstanding fees. Failure to do so means they'll be forced to vacate their housing and lose registration for the fall 2025 semester. Frederico Buju Opoku-Asamoah, a leader among the affected students, described the situation as a perfect storm of stress and uncertainty. He explained that the university's actions have already disrupted their academic plans, with some students just one semester away from graduation. If they can't secure funding by December, their dreams of earning degrees will crumble. "We're not asking for charity," Opoku-Asamoah emphasized in a recent interview. "We're asking for a lifeline to finish what we started." And this is the part most people miss: the students have tried reaching out to Ghana's Scholarship Secretariat and other authorities for help, but their pleas have gone unanswered. Opoku-Asamoah revealed that repeated attempts to arrange meetings with officials have been met with silence, a lack of response that has left the community feeling abandoned. "It's like no one cares," he said. "We're stranded, both financially and emotionally, and the clock is ticking." The situation raises a critical question: should the government intervene to protect its students abroad, or is it time for individuals to explore alternative solutions? Some argue that international students should plan for financial emergencies, while others believe nations have a duty to support their citizens' educational pursuits. What's your take? Share your thoughts in the comments. Does the government owe these students a hand, or is this a personal responsibility? For now, the 181 students remain in limbo, hoping for a miracle. Their story isn't just about money, it's about the fragility of opportunity and the weight of expectations placed on young shoulders. As the deadline looms, one thing is clear: the world is watching to see who steps up.